Welcome to the Fearless Family Health Podcast. In a world that is filled with fear, my hope is to bring you inspiration, information, and support to live joyfully and more healthfully. Join me as each week I will bring you empowering tips as well as interviews with parents, doctors, and experts to bring you vital information to make you the master of your family's future. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us again on another episode of Fearless Family Health. Today, I have an exciting episode that I hope is going to dispel some fears and allow your family some freedom. Today, I am talking with Arica Goulet. She is a mom of 3 kids with a very diverse career and education background. Her primary interests include promoting optimal family wellness through nutrition and recreation, as well as optimal child development through risky play. Arica is a certified kids nutrition specialist, family educator, and parent coach. As well, Arica serves as a breastfeeding counselor with Breastfeeding USA and works as a rec coach and gym liaison for Ground Zero Gymnastics in our hometown of Mount Vernon. Arica's first and foremost goal is to help parents be the parents they want to be and help families reach the goals and happiness they deserve. If you want to reach out to Arica, you can reach her at breastfeedingusa.org on the Whidbey Island, Fidalgo, and Camino chapter website. Today with Arica, we're going to talk about letting our kids explore and have a little bit more risky play in a way that keeps them safe enough, but allows them some freedom to explore and grow. So without further ado, let's chat with Arica. Hi, Arica. Thank you for joining me today on Fearless Family Health. So today, what I really want to talk to you about is kids and what we term risky play, or what I kind of term what used to be normal kids play. So I just read an article, actually this morning, I was reading an article that was posted about a mom who's saying that our kids are overscheduled. We are putting them in structured events all the time, and it's just not good for our kids to be doing this. It's not good for them to be always going on a specific schedule and doing a specific thing and not having any freedom to explore and play and learn through that exploration. So I'm just going to have you tell me what you think about kids' schedules these days and how we should incorporate some free play and what we term now risky play.
Well, I think the overscheduling is becoming the norm in America. We seem to kind of take pride in how busy we can be. Oh, I'm so busy. My family's so busy. We do. And I'm just as guilty as the next person, which I think most of us are.
Oh, yeah, it's always a struggle. It's a struggle because we see everyone going like, we should be doing this. So why aren't we doing this if we're not? And then if you are, you're just with everybody else.
Yeah, and we all want our kids to grow up and be successful. We want to give them all the opportunities, do all the things. And that's actually something that is becoming a problem with year-round sports. We want our kids to be successful at soccer. So we play year-round soccer, and then we're looking at overuse injuries, and that's problematic. And we're just scheduling soccer all year round. My kid's going to be a soccer superstar. Maybe they will. And there are some sport governing bodies now that are saying no more can't play year round because you're seeing A, too many overuse injuries, and B, a burnout in the sport early on, which leads to kids not playing in college and not going on and playing later, which is exactly what you're trying to avoid. So anyway, back to kind of what we were talking about. Free play is unstructured play, time to do whatever they want to do, however they see fit. And I coach all kinds of sports. I coach gymnastics, I coach swimming for a long time. So I'm all about organized sports. So I'm not going to pretend I'm not. But when kids are constantly being forced have to play by the rules, which is good for them to some degree. You can't argue that. But they can't think on their own. And they don't have that opportunity to think on their own because they're forced to abide by the adult expectations and what the adult who's coaching the sport wants out of that sport. So free play gives them an opportunity to explore, to learn on their own, to develop creative thinking skills, to develop their own problem-solving skills without being coached, to learn how to make judgments. And those are all skills that kids need as they grow into adulthood.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot to that, as well as letting kids explore just in their physical development and their neurological development. For me, as a chiropractic standpoint, letting kids have free mobility, maybe not, I mean, it's still play at that age, but that freedom of mobility and knowing how much they can do and learning new skills physically within their own time frame.
Yes. And as a chiropractor, I'm sure you see really in infants and toddlers, it's very apparent when they're always contained and always forced to kind of play by the rules, really where that's a detriment. When kids are contained in swings, contained in bouncy seats, how that's problematic for their natural development, their natural physical development, neurological development, mental and emotional development. We see kids who are delayed in crawling, delayed in sitting, who have torticollis and flat heads and all of those things because they're so restricted in their freedom to explore and play.
Yeah, and you can't really take away the physical and the emotional and the intellectual, all of that interplays with each other. So they're not just one thing. When you increase a child or a person's physical capabilities and physical mobility, it will increase their emotional stability and their health, as well as their, even intellectual. There's studies showing that, it can make you smarter. So
yes, absolutely.
We got some feedback going on, I think. You had some jets flying over or something. I know you don't know, Garber.
No, it's probably my kids running upstairs.
Oh, okay. They're freely playing, which is perfect.
They are freely playing.
So what do you think? So this podcast is called Fearless Family Health. So there's always some reason that people don't let their kids just play. I mean, when I grew up, my mom literally just kicked me out of the house for hours on end. And I'd be out in the woods. I'd be riding my horse. I'd be riding my bike. I'd be swimming in the river. I'd be climbing hay bales. I'd be, who knows what I was doing, all kinds of crazy things. And, there was some risk involved in that, letting me go do those things. Because, I was 8, 9, 10 years old playing in a river by myself. And sometimes that's a little risky.
That is very risky, Cheryl.
That is very risky. But, they'd make sure that I had the skills before they set me out to do that I could swim. I was with somebody. I wasn't all by myself, and those kinds of things.
That's a very good example that you set there. So when we talk about fear, I think fear is one of the big reasons why we're seeing such a reduction in this free play and risky play. And with social media so popular now and media at large, we see a lot of fear mongering and, well, this could happen or that could happen, or your kid could get kidnapped by a stranger. Well, they could, but what is the low? I mean, your kid could get struck by lightning out of the clear blue sky too, but what are the odds? Low. Recently there's been a big trend on social media about kids and trampolines. And I get it, trampolines can be dangerous, but trampolines can be very beneficial also. And a lot of physical therapists, occupational therapists recommend that kids use trampolines. But you still need to use risk reduction strategies and be smart and be safe and don't do stupid things or let your kids do stupid things on trampolines. When you have a 4-year-old on a trampoline, it's one kid at a time, never more than one on a trampoline, and you use a trampoline that's low to the ground or has a safety net so they can't fall off. So you want to make things as safe as necessary, but not as safe as possible, which is probably a theme you'll hear me say a lot, that it's as safe as possible or as safe as necessary, but not as safe as possible. And then not only the fear of your kid getting hurt, but the fear of other parents judging you on the internet. And I know everyone who's listening has seen this, heard this, been at the brunt of it, being judged for this, that, and the other thing, for having your kid forward facing at 3 years old in their car seat, or for letting your kid play outdoors with no shoes on. All of these things, you're being judged by other parents, which is unfortunate. But then we talk about giving kids skills and reducing risk. And swimming is a big one. I worked in the aquatic industry for a very long time. I've done a lot of research on the dangers of drowning, which is really one of the most dangerous things that kids encounter is drowning. But swimming is healthy. It's good for you. It's very good for you. As a chiropractor, you know that, and you can tell us all about how good swimming is for us. But you have to have risk reduction strategies that are reasonable. Wearing a life jacket when you're out in open water, swimming with a buddy. Taking some lessons is a little controversial, and we can talk about that another day, but knowing how to swim, making sure your kids learn how to swim, talking to your kids about swimming with a buddy, never going in the water without a buddy. If you have really young kids, not going in the water without an adult nearby. All of those kinds of things make it as safe as necessary.
I know. And we go to the park now, and if your child goes up the slide, you have people that are looking at you like cross-eyed. So
I know.
I don't know how to change that though. Like I guess I am one of those moms who will let my kids go up the slide, as long as they're not hurting anybody else, and they're being respectful of people who want to go down the slide. Like, it is okay for them to go up the slide.
Yes, there's nothing inherently dangerous about going up a slide. Yes, you should be respectful in group situations, and teaching your kids respect is a thing. But not that's a whole nother story. Yes, you should do it, but that's really the issue with going up the slide. It's just being respectful of others. It's not inherently dangerous.
Yes. So I think that, and there's a group out there now that's organized that is free range parenting.
Yes.
So there's been people who have come under the fire for doing things that are considered free range parenting. And some of them may definitely seem very risky for some people. I think one person let their child take the New York subway at like 11 or 12 years old or something like that, all by themselves. And they had done it multiple times with their parents, and they just wanted to go from point A to point B on the subway by themselves, and they had someone to meet them there. But even that caught huge controversy over that, letting that child do that. So I guess I want to get your take on that. For when do you know that it's too far? To me, it's all situational. It's all dependent on that child, that mom, their experience, their knowledge, their what do I want to say? I guess just how much they know about what's going on around them. I can't, the word is evading me right now, what I want to use, but
there are a lot of great groups, Facebook, internet forums, and also some great books written on the free range parenting movement that are very informational Whether or not you agree with it, read it and have an open mind. That's kind of my fun. As far as that, my kids have only ever lived in Oak Harbor. And if we continue to live in Oak Harbor for the next 5 years, which would take them to the age of 10, I'm not going to take them to New York City and let them ride the subway by themselves. They've never ridden the subway. That's a ridiculous idea.
Yeah.
They would have no idea what to do, where to go, who all these people are. But if your kids have ridden a subway every single day for 9 or 10 or 11 years of their lives, and talk to them about how to do it safely, it's perfectly appropriate for them to take a subway ride from point A to point B. And interestingly, my parents came out here on Amtrak a couple years ago. They live in Iowa. And my dad said that there was a mom on the train who would not leave her kid alone to go to the bathroom. She was like 6 or 7 years old, wouldn't leave her kid alone because she was afraid that her kid was going to be kidnapped. Now, where are you going to kidnap a kid to on a train? Where are you going to go? Like, kidnap them and go where? Is this really a realistic idea? I mean, number one, stranger abductions are extremely rare. And number two, there's nowhere to hide on a train. So, you kind of got to think about these things a little bit. And I was just talking with my husband the other day. We live in a neighborhood. The neighborhood itself is very quiet, but we're right off a very busy street, and we have no sidewalks at all. My twins are 5, and my daughter loves to go outside and walk around. And I let her go out in our fenced backyard by herself with no problem. I know the judgment's coming. But by this age, when I was growing up, my mom let me leave our neighborhood and go for, leave our block and go for walks in our larger neighborhood completely by myself. But we had sidewalks, which makes it very safe. So am I going to let my 5-year-old? Probably not quite yet, simply because we don't have sidewalks, and that does make it more dangerous in terms of being hit by a car, which is very serious potential injury. But if we had sidewalks, absolutely, I would let her go out and walk on the sidewalk through our neighborhood by herself without a problem.
Yeah, and I think you said, the judgment is coming. I'm like, and that is it's so sad. It's so sad that there's so much judgment because no one knows what anybody else's real story is. Even a child that falls out of a window or gets hit by a car or something else crazy happens, sometimes the first thing people do is jump to judgment.
Absolutely.
And to me, the first thing I do is like, oh my goodness, like that. I mean, really, it could be anybody's child at any given time. Kids are quick. Kids run out into places where you aren't, you don't have eyes on the back of your head. Literally, you don't. Because my children, I used to tell them that, and they used to ask, Mom, where are those? When am I going to grow eyes in the back of my head? And I'm like, I don't really have eyes in the back of my head. And I think that causes so much fear in people and letting their children explore, or even sharing that their children are doing things and exploring. Like, don't you dare put that on social media.
I know.
So, but beyond that, I think that does detriment to our children's mental and physical growth and abilities. So I'm doing these podcasts just to help people just dispel some fears. So I guess what do you think people's biggest fears are around just letting them have some freedom of mobility, freedom of play, and not having them scheduled or contained?
Well, I think in older kids, we see a fear of we're not keeping up with the Joneses, right? Look at Cheryl's kid who's an expert horseback rider or whatever. I need to get my kid into horseback riding lessons every single day so that we can keep up with Cheryl's family. That is keeping up with the Joneses. And I think in younger kids who, although, we're seeing this now in 3 and 4-year-olds, certainly by 5 or 6, having to be in organized sports and organize this, that, and the other thing to try to get ahead. But I think the internet has brought a lot of fear mongering, and afraid of your kids getting hurt, being injured, and no one wants their kid to be injured. My 5-year-old son broke his arm bike riding in September. Not really a surprise that it happened. But other parents see this and think, oh gosh, bike riding is so dangerous. Statistically, bike riding is dangerous because so many kids participate in bike riding. Which you kind of have, when you look at statistics, you need to consider that, how many kids participate. Bike riding is one of the biggest sports participated in. Of course, more injuries will happen. But he's also better for being able to go bike riding every day and for, learning how to bike ride, which that's more your realm, chiropractic and all the benefits too.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of all the neurological benefits of bike riding, like the balance, the proprioception, the vestibular, workout that they're getting, the cross crawl, it's just so many things that they're learning by doing those exercises.
Yep. And, honestly, he rode down our very steep driveway super fast and then realized that he went too far and couldn't stop, and oops, that was a big mistake. That broke his arm. But he has now learned how to make better judgments, which is important before he goes out in life and has to make decisions and judgments and think on his feet, that he will be better for that now. Even if it did cost him a broken arm, and I'm sure it will not be the last broken arm.
No, and some kids are just more risk takers inherently. I mean, I was watching a documentary and they were talking about how, testosterone levels, the higher testosterone levels, the higher risk takers and adrenaline junkies these kids seem to be. So it's just inherent in some of these kids to push their limits a little bit more. But a lot of these people, if they're let in a safe enough environment.
Safe enough is the key there, right?
Safe enough. They can definitely push their limits, their physical limits, and their mental and emotional limits further, doing those things at times, if that is what they choose to do. So some of those people become like extreme sports people, which in itself is inherently a little bit risky, but that is who they are. But if they had not been allowed to do that and had not been encouraged to do that, it may not have come to that for them, or it may have taken them a lot longer, or had to find a different route. But
right. Yeah. And what are we telling kids when we say that everything, it's too dangerous, too scary? Jacob broke his arm bike riding, which I just talked about. And the very next day, before I even had him in a new cast, or in a hard cast, I took him to the bike shop there in Burlington and picked him out a new bike helmet so that he could bike ride again. Because I don't want him to now be afraid to bike ride. Because when we constantly tell kids, oh no, that's too dangerous, that's too scary, you can't do that, you should be afraid, then they're growing up with a fear mindset. And studies have shown that this leads to long-term generalized anxiety and anxiety about life. And that's certainly not how I want my children to grow up. And I don't think anybody does wants their kids to be anxious adults who are anxious and nervous about everything.
Yeah, and it increases their sympathetic neurological response. And that puts them sympathetic neurological responses, fight or flight, which are always in more of a fear-based mode, which actually shuts down your immune response. It shuts down how your digestion works. It shuts down your cognitive thinking abilities. It has all these detrimental effects of people, and we're seeing it now in adults chronically.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it affects their adrenal glands. It affects their thyroid function. All these things start to happen. So there is a time to be in sympathetic mode when there is an actual fear
Uh-huh.
or something that you need to like get away from. But
Right, exactly. But it shouldn't be all the time, every day, because you grew up that
yeah,
everything is scary. That's too scary. Going on the monkey bars is too scary. Riding your bike is too
yeah,
scary.
yeah. I
Walking
mean,
outside is too scary.
and that story you told me about the mom who was on the train with her child, I'm like, oh my goodness, like that mom has to be under like constant sympathetic overdrive if she is always under a state of fear. What is that doing for her health? And then she's
Yes,
relaying that onto her children. What's it doing for
absolutely.
their health? So I'm like, she probably has all kinds of adrenal fatigue and thyroid issues, or, you know, um,
Yeah, absolutely. To be living in that constant fear of, oh, my kids, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Something bad might happen. I mean, it would just be mentally and physically exhausting.
yeah. And not that we don't worry about our kids, because we can't just shut that little gene off as a mom.
No,
I
we
mean,
can't.
there is some worry there all the time, but I mean, I have been around people who it is their state of being is to be worried about everything,
Yes.
and I can live that way. I mean, it's exhausting.
And I think we see that in what society has coined helicopter moms. And not to say that they're wrong or they're parenting poorly, because that's not a fair thing to say.
No,
But they, for whatever reason, are fearful for their children. And I'm sure everyone has their own story, their own background, and whatever. But to live in that constant fear and to constantly have to micromanage your child to keep them safe, to think about, what's that for your mental and physical health and your child's long-term mental and physical health, and how that affects them.
yeah, and I think just having people that tell them that it is okay
Mm-hmm.
to let their children not be so scheduled and let their children be themselves and have some free play in their life and enjoy it and just have fun to relax a little bit about it. Just to give people permission, I'm hoping will open some doors. But I think a lot of people in their 20s and 30s in this generation of having children now have been under sympathetic overdrive for much of their childhood. And so it is a cycle that they don't know how to get out of. So sometimes having someone who can help you with that is key.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's studies showing that chiropractic care adjustments actually get you out of that feedback loop, out of that sympathetic overdrive into more of a parasympathetic dominant mode. So finding a good chiropractor, finding someone who maybe lives that lifestyle a little bit more and spending time with them or talking to them, maybe even counseling.
Yeah.
Some parents are going to need some counseling because they're going to have to go over some of these fears that they have within themselves and for their children.
And there are a lot of reasons. You may legitimately, I have a couple of friends who have lost children and
Yeah.
who say, how do I live my life without constant fear of something happening to my next child or to my other children? Um, and to recognize that that's an issue you're having shows a lot of self-awareness, and that's awesome. But that is a perfect example of when counseling is very appropriate to talk to a professional who can help you sort that out and get you into a better mental place and your whole family into a better place, and how to cope with the loss and with the fears that come with that loss.
Yeah. I mean, definitely anybody who has lost a child or a very close family member like that can benefit from counseling, but especially a child. And if you have other children, so that it doesn't hinder or restrict you or your future. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
imagine. I haven't lost a child other than all miscarriages, but haven't lost a child that has come to term.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But I've had a couple of things that my kids have been close to doing, falling out of a window or one of them getting down close to a road for another one, things like that. And I, just that for a couple of days, I was in sympathetic overdrive, and
Yeah.
like really work through that and talk to people about it and come around. Because it's not like we let our children go crazy and we never ever worry about them. So, but yeah, I definitely understand. And I don't want to put down any parents who are raising their kids in any way, shape, or form. My only hope is to dispel some fears, have people look at the actual odds of things happening, like really look at the odds and try to base their life on information, accurate information, and not on fears or what someone might say.
And to consider all of the information, right? So injury prevention used to be my big kind of work area and research interest, until I started to discover, in writing a lot of papers on this topic, that the injury prevention industry has some shortcomings, and they get a little carried away sometimes. So a lot of recommendations are made that are perhaps a little extreme. So trampolines are a good example of one. And the AAP says no trampolines, 0 trampolines for kids under 6 years old. I mean, if you want to take that as a blanket recommendation that you trust, that's fine. But there is more information out there if you really explore it, and the benefits of using trampolines and how you can do it safely and reasonably, so that you get those benefits while reducing the risks that come with using a trampoline. And certainly they're not for everybody, but that's a good example. And to look at the studies, and really to look at the dangers and what causes the dangers. So one of the biggest dangers of trampolines in little kids is falling off of them. And that you can put up a net, you can use a low to the ground trampoline, you can get an in-ground trampoline, and those all reduce that risk of falling off. One of the other big risks in kids using trampolines is colliding with each other. And I'm sure as a child, Cheryl, you probably jumped on a trampoline with another kid and collided with them, and it is terrible. I've done it. That's resolved easily by saying one kid on a trampoline at a time. So taking in all the information, having an open mind to other information, other ideas. So there's a lot of information out there in the world, and don't take one person's scary experience as that's always what's going to happen, and that's a terrible thing, so scary, and look at the bigger picture. So that's kind of for what that's worth.
We do have a trampoline in our backyard.
We have a trampoline and monkey bars.
I love monkey bars. And I got this trampoline after my oldest son broke his arm on a trampoline. But I'll tell you the story about that. That was like an old time trampoline. It didn't have any net on it. And he just fell and hit the springs on the side of the trampoline.
Oh.
And he was with a bunch of teenagers that were watching him. Just the right bad fall, and he broke it. And but like I said, a child could trip. I had a mom who just stepped on a toy and tripped and broke her foot. So I mean,
I mean, and I know 2 kids now who've tripped on the net of the trampoline and fallen off the trampoline and broken their arms. So I mean, is anything foolproof? No, it's not. And that's kind of the point of what we're talking about today, is that nothing is foolproof, and the benefits of free play in cognitive development, in the ability to make decisions on your own, to take risks in your life, all of those benefits how do they compare to the risks? The benefits outweigh the risk, and how can we reduce the risks without losing the benefits? And back to bike riding again, how do we make bike riding safer without losing the benefits? We wear a bike helmet, right? And when my kid broke his arm bike riding, he also broke his helmet, and I would hate to have seen what his skull would have looked like had he not had on a helmet, and in the end, it was, a broken arm, a bad day, but we reasonably reduced the risk, and he's gained a lot of benefits from it.
Yeah, he's gained a lot of information, a lot of he knows now not to go barreling down that steep driveway that fast. But what would his life be like? I mean, I know people who've never ridden a bike in their life and they seem to be okay, but the benefits of riding a bike definitely.
And in general, going outside and playing, and having free play, and we talk about indicators of success in children. And I know it will shock everyone, but intelligence is not the number one indicator of success in children. But the ability to self-regulate is, and that includes decision-making skills, problem-solving skills, all of those things. And all of those things are learned outdoors and through free play in which you take risks. If you only ever play soccer or t-ball, you never have the opportunity to make decisions, to learn how to make decisions on your own, that trial and error experience, because you have an adult who's enforcing the rules and coaching you on what to do. Which, not to negate the positive of youth recreation programs and youth sports, I would never do that. But, you have to have that free play opportunity to learn those skills on your own also. And again, that's the number one predictor of long-term success in children, is the ability to self-regulate, not intelligence. So very, very important.
Yes, I totally agree with you on that point for sure. Sometimes I think my kids get almost too much free play. I'm like, would you guys sit down? They don't want to be part of any sports teams. They just want to snowboard and ski and I don't know. So, well, thank you, Arica, for joining me. Do you have any parting thought before I let you go today?
Any parting thought? I think my biggest parting thought is to just be open to new perspectives and be open to new information and new ideas. Everybody parents the way that is appropriate for them and their family, but new information can only, it will either confirm your beliefs or perhaps show you that there's other ideas out there, and that will only make you a better parent. Will only lead to better outcomes for your family, to just have an open mind to new ideas.
Right. Well, thank you very much for joining me and shedding some light on some fears that people may have around free play. And hopefully we didn't make it worse by telling about our broken arm stories. So it's just a broken arm. They heal, right?
Just a broken arm. They heal. They heal very quickly, in fact.
Well, thank you very much, Arica. And if you want to reach Arica, you can reach her at, is it breastfeedingusa.org/ what's the last part of it?
Yes. Well, we have a Facebook group, which is Breastfeeding USA of the Islands, I believe, because I serve Whidbey, Hidalgo, and Camano Islands. And I also have an email address, which the easiest is just to reach me at my Breastfeeding USA one, erica.goulet@breastfeedingusa.org. So yes, feel free to reach out to me for breastfeeding or any of your other parenting needs.
Great. And I will have links to that in the show notes as well. And I believe I have it in the intro that I already did record it. So thank you, Arica. Have a great day and be safe out there.
All right. Thanks, you too, Cheryl.
Be safe enough.
I'll try.
Thank you for joining us on the Fearless Family Health Podcast. If you like what you hear and want to hear more, please subscribe to upcoming casts and rate us on iTunes. Also, don't forget to share it with your friends so we can all be fearless.